minutes call. Tam, it's not gonna be present today, and there is not much to talk. There is more things to do actually than to talk. So I think it will be a quick call. But just for the sake of today, the question for today is, um, if you are gonna attend to any of the conferences around the world or close to your city, and if so, why and which one? And on this case, I am thinking about ETCC. A lot of the stewards are going to ETCC in Paris, and it was the first. I mean, it's just about nostalgia because it was the first time all the stewards met each other last year in ETCC. So it seems like a nice time to go. And the other one that I may go, it's the one here in Barcelona, the 6th to the 9th of July happens in Barcelona. It's yeah, those are the two that I'm expected to go. How about you, get it?
Yeah, no plans right now. I mean, it's a pretty long haul from Seattle to get to Europe. So I probably should look and see like what the calendar is. I don't know. Is there like a central place for Web3 events?
Yeah, there is an Excel sheet going around that has all the dates and stuff. I don't remember where it is. I can look it for you. But yeah, there is something along those lines. And
Yeah.
just as a suggestion, you know that the USD it's very close to the euro, so it won't be that expensive for you.
Okay, I'll pass it on to Costa.
I don't have any plans either. I'm in Barcelona, but I haven't planned anything. I'll pass it on to you, Jason.
I'll provide a more interesting answer. So if I was thinking about this, actually, one of the things that would be drawing my attention wouldn't be so much a Web3 conference, but it perhaps would be one for either Brew Your Own or Winemaker magazines that I'm a contributor for. And because of the pandemic, I haven't done that with them since 2019. So that's probably the most likely thing I'm going to end up attending. But then I'll be on the other side of things, being a presenter for one of the disciplines that I'm familiar with in the homebrewing world. So yeah, but it's something. It's a really great question. I'm glad you asked it because it's getting me thinking about that overall. Because it's the pandemic has dampened that for me for any reason, and now I'm getting into this space. I would wonder, what types of things are done there. So I'd have to go and look because I'm very much unfamiliar with the types of events. So that's a great question. Thank you.
I will say, Jason, first of all, you can answer this later. What kind of things you brew, and then secondly, the conference. I had the same question until I went to it to see like why do you go to a crypto conf? Like what is the reasoning behind it, or what did you find there? And you have different set of people. You have funny thing, which is watching Vitalik around, just walking in different outfits that are very quirky and weird, and he just doesn't care. So that's a plus. Besides that, there is a bunch of workshops depending on the conference. Last year, for example, in ATC, they they plus it's a great opportunity for protocols to spend a lot of money on things that build community. So last year, for example, Ave throw a party on the Egyptian Museum in Paris. We were still in lockdown, in a soft lockdown, and they rent out the whole basement underground of the museum. So imagine it was about probably 400, 300 people on a basement, a huge basement. It's not a small basement, huge basement, and it was open bar all night long. You didn't have to spend anything. You could just enter with the ticket from ETC. You don't need any other thing. That's on the ludic side. On the normal side, you have conference usually 3 or 4 days in a row all day long, and there is always these spaces for networking that are open to anyone. You just plug in and just talk to people, and you introduce yourself, and usually there are also booths of people presenting their projects. I remember last year there was an alternative to Ledger, the wallet, the physical wallet. There was a guy presenting like with a booth, with physical booth, presenting an alternative to Ledger, and he just stood there for the 3 days, just welcoming people to answer them questions, stuff like that. So it depends. A lot of people go um, to meet people, like what we did. Another people goes to investment aspect. A lot of people goes to hunt investment or to present projects as an investment opportunity. So you will find a lot of people in suits and like cool kids and around and stuff like that. And then third, there is a people who just like the vibe, and they are just there because, like Griff, for example. Griff do this kind of worldwide tour, going from crypto conference to crypto conference. Even if he doesn't present anything, he always ends up presenting something. But even if that's not on his intention, he always goes. So it's about like connecting with people. And at the beginning, I underestimate the power of meeting people in person until I actually felt it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is different, and this sort of feels good. So those are my 2 cents. Beer 100, how are you? We are asking if you are expecting to go to any crypto conference around the world this year, and if so, which one and why? Welcome.
Hi everyone, thank you. So I'd say I would like to go to Eat Mexico, because it's in Mexico, right? In Mexico City, the place I live in. So I'm excited because I feel like that could be it would be my kind of first big conference to attend. So that would be really cool. Yeah, just to connect to people and everything in Spanish. So yeah, I think that would be really cool. Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone else left to go, or I'll pass it back to you, Edu.
Thank you. Yeah, at the end, also what happens with this conference, like I thought that also because it was in France, the conference will be in French. And what that was not the case by no means. Like most of the people were speaking English. Like that's a universal crypto language, it seems to
Oh
me.
yeah, that's true.
So
Probably it's gonna be the same thing in Mexico.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are regional speakers, but the regional speakers in regional languages usually speaks on their workshops. Like if you're giving a workshop about decentralization, that goes into your natural language. But yeah, I will suggest if you, Jason, for example, have one close to home or someone like you can go by driving. If that's the case, just pick one day and go. And it's quite interesting space. You will see there is also this underlying aspect that I really loved, like since I'm a queer Latino person, like seeing this non-labeled space, like no one cares who you are, no one cares how much money do you have, if you're black, if you're, no one cares. Like everyone's really, really friendly, and that's something I have never seen in any other of the conference style spaces that I have been. So that's a plus on that end, and so I always encourage people to do so. So can you just briefly explain what do you brew before we move on?
Absolutely. So those conferences sound very familiar. It's very much what we do at a conference that might be about home winemaking. So you have several days of seminars where people present on different topics. So I was actually just reminiscing about the first one that I was involved in was back in 2011, and the year before I had won some medals in a competition. And they normally asked prior year winners to come, and they would have a panel where they have 3 or 4 different people so that attendees could ask them questions about, how did they learn how to do what they did? Do they have a particular process for various types of techniques? And I was making a lot of wine from fruit, so things that I could pick locally at home, like strawberries and peaches. We have a lot of apples nearby, and people are always curious about that because a lot of people end up having that stuff near home, but they might not necessarily have wine grapes near home, but they still want to be able to make wine from the fruit that they have. So I just remember people being so curious about, well, how do you make fruit from strawberries? I'm like, you crush them up, you add sugar, you add yeast, it turns into wine. But it's a really fun way to again network. We all talk to each other. We have a swap meet night where everyone brings things that they've made. So you're not only getting to talk to other people about what you're passionate about, but you're able to share it with them. And it's an amazing opportunity for that networking because you find other people who make things from fruit that you do too, or make things out of things that you don't know anything about. I had an amazing star fruit wine one year. I had never even seen it. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it tasted like, but it was a wonderful wine. But I got to talk to the person who made it from the Philippines. So they were able to describe like their family did this. So it sounds exactly like what you're talking about is is you're passionate about something, and the people go there because they want to find other people to talk to that are equally passionate, that have their own life at home that involves this thing that we all care about. So yeah, I'll have to look. I'm very near Boston, so I'm sure there's got to be an opportunity somewhere. I can drive there. I used to work in Boston for years, so yeah, I'll have to look it up and see. So thank you.
You should connect with Costa because he also does. I mean, he does fermentation. He does kombucha. Costa, we would like to just explain briefly before we move on, since we are in the topic.
I'm more of a fermentation freak, so everything that it's fermented, I'm interested in. Be it kombucha, kefir, doing garlic fermented in honey, kombucha. What else? Kimchi. I'm planning of starting doing sake. Yeah, everything that I can get my hands on, I should start doing.
That sounds fantastic. All of that is wonderful things to do, and it's fun to do it. It's not just about the alcohol. I've tried to tell people that for years. I'm curious about it. Like I want to see it go. That's what's so interesting about it. I want to see it happen, and I want to be able to observe the transformation. But some of them create alcohol too. So
yeah, exactly. Super fun to see like the bubbles appearing on the first days. That's super exciting.
Right. This was our unexpected topic of today. So thank you both for sharing that. And so we will, since we have part of the writer guilds here. Costa, would you like to give us an update? Maybe share your screen on the FAQ, if you feel like, and the piece of article that you are writing. That I don't think maybe you have plugged in with Gideon regarding this article about the working groups. I don't know. Up to you.
Yeah, we actually talked the other day about it with Jason, and I think the Writer's Guild is going to give some feedback on it. Let me go to the FAQ. My only just a second. Okay, let me see how to share the screen because I've never shared it before.
There is a button next to the mic, to the unmute one. That's the one.
Oof. Okay, is this okay?
Yes.
yep, I can see it.
So I just divided in different sections, which I decided on based on the description of the TC that we have in the same handbook. And these were like basic questions about the DAO, like what is a DAO? What is the token engineering commons, common stack, goal of TC, mission, vision, values, cultural field, the Ostrom's principles. Then on the structure, what are the working groups, a bit of a description of each working group. Then the roles of the members, what is a contributor, what is a steward, subject matter experts, gravitons. Then on the section of organizational practices, how the TC is coordinated, how are the working groups coordinated, what tools do we use, a bit small description of the tools we use. What else? What are gardens? What is snapshot?
Can I ask you a question? Is it possible, for example, on the case of the snapshot or the one that you just were sharing in Token Log and Gardens, two
Yeah.
things. The first one, if this accepts to have like bold or titles, so we can like have some change in the color or something to the questions. And then secondly, if we can add hyperlinks to, for example, TC Gardens, so a link to the TC Gardens.
Yeah, of course. There's links here above. I put links here, for example, to our YouTube channel. So you would like to put links to what, to the snapshot?
Yeah,
For
the
example?
snapshot, the gardens. For example, on the previous one, to a link to the 8 principles of Ostrom, like things that require a little bit of a deeper sort of knowledge or a deeper dive. So
Okay.
people doesn't have to like Google it, so they can like quickly get in. What do you think?
Yeah, so Jason and I were talking about this last week, and first of all, Costa, this is great. This is like a.
Thank you.
I wish I had this when I started. Very useful. So, yeah, what we were thinking actually. Well, Jason, do you want to just describe what we were planning on doing in tomorrow's call?
Sure. So what we're going to do tomorrow, and this is obviously, assuming that we have a large enough group of people that's just not Gideon and I, we want to have a couple of other Writers Guild members, and I have gotten confirmation from a couple folks they're coming. We're going to break it up into sections, and we're going to ask the Writing Guild members to read through each section, provide any grammatical feedback. So anything if there's punctuation or anything, stuff like that, that they notice as they read it, obviously as a courtesy, to help us get that stuff right. But as they have questions, or they, as Edu just pointed out, are there places where we can link to different things? Are there additional definitions, maybe things that have changed in some period of time since folks first looked at this? So they're going to provide comment on all of that stuff, and then we were going to package all that up and reply back to you, Costa, with that, and then you could determine how to integrate the feedback that made sense in a next update on it, with the open-ended question of if there were additional questions that we could entertain about it, if there were topics that we all felt like there were many questions and not enough answers, the guild would be happy to dig into it further as a collaboration exercise for us to come up with additional ideas too. So that it would be a one-time, for us this week, but then we absolutely would provide any additional review and edit requests that were made, because we're hoping this is going to help us learn, not only work together to learn how to work together, but also learn about, as Gideon said, all of the stuff that we're talking about. We all start working on the same definitions of them. So we're hoping this will be helpful.
Yeah, and I think that was actually one of the goals of the FAQ, to keep it updated as the community goes on. So yeah, sounds great.
And do you think, Cosa, you can send? Can you explain the piece of article that you're building about the working groups?
Yeah, Manu asked me to do description / article about the working groups. So I'm just explaining a bit how the TEC is organized, because the working groups are the basic organizational unit of the TEC, and then a bit explanation of each working group. That's it so far.
So on that end, I suggested. So just to provide context, we are expecting to just stay with only one guide due to the constriction of the budget for the next term. So Tam suggested that Costa could like sort of take this approach and evolve a little bit the role of the guide, so own that role and see how it could be expanded. And one of the things that I thought could be interesting for that article, that it could be an article or just be a post, but I thought more of an article standpoint, is the idea of seeing how, like, not only an article that resumes every working group, but that brings up what are the unique qualities of that working group. For example, in SoftGov, you can achieve nice conversations about governance and culture. You can debate freely. In reward system, it's a very technical, like a sort of a piece of article that highlights the strong points of our organizations regarding each working group, as a way to sort of feature which are the points that could be identified by someone and say, hey, maybe this is something I am appealed by. So not only a description of every working group, but like a small vision from his guide point of view of what could be advantages for someone to know about them. Does that make sense, guys from the Writers Guild?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the thing that one of the tasks for us right now is just making it very easy and compelling, like exciting for people. So when they come here, it's super simple. They can go to one place and go like, oh, okay, I get that. Oh, I see. And there's like a short description with the FAQ. Like I like how short these descriptions are. And then we can have links to more in depth. So like this is like, it's like a navigation thing. And I think if the working group thing could be similar, right? It could be that, it's just like a short, very short description that's like, here's what this group does. This is like the kinds of people who like this kinds of stuff. If you're interested in this, that's kind of like what you're doing with the orientation, Edu, right? It's like breaking it out by interests. So you could say like, these type of people, tend to like this type of group if you like blah, blah, blah. And then link maybe to the manifesto, for more depth from each working group. Something like that, maybe.
Do you think the folks from Writers Guilds could be interested in reviewing this one too? All right.
Yeah. And we can explore, Jason, we can, so we have a meeting tomorrow with the Writers Guild and we can talk about, there may be some ways of doing this so that Costa, just so you can concentrate more on the guide work. Maybe what you could do is actually just like give us the outline. Don't spend as much time actually writing, but just tell us like, here's the main points that I'd like to have,
Okay.
And then just hand it to us and we can crank on it and do some of the actual writing. It might be a way to, and actually on those, for those projects, you could even join us on the call if you wanted.
When's your call?
Jason, do you want to?
Yeah, so our next call is tomorrow, which is Tuesday the 24th. It happens to be 5 p.m. Eastern time. That's actually one of our agenda items tomorrow, is to talk to the assembled group about, is there a better time, just because that's a very late time for a European audience, which we totally recognize. But it is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. Our plan, no matter when the call is to always have a collaborative exercise. So as Gideon just said, one of the things that we might do is we might break something that you sent to us about the working groups into individual pieces. So in a 20-minute section of a meeting, the guild could provide feedback on that one section. So we're immediately able to turn around and send something to you every single time we're meeting. And while we're working on, completing the entire thing. We're hoping that there'll be some collaboration in between meetings as well, should members have time too. But yeah, we would love to be able to help with starting things and getting that process going, because then it's a review edit process for all of us. All of us need to think about, okay, what's the best information in here? How do we present that if we have questions about, how we're doing that now? And as Gideon said, once we get started, then I think a lot of things can flow from it, because we're all working together to try to rapidly turn around on new content or updated content for ourselves.
Okay, then what I'll do is develop kind of a skeleton for the article and send it to you so you can check it and develop each part.
Absolutely, that sounds fantastic. And the invitation, so this was just put out there this weekend in the Writers Guild channel in response to someone who had asked. The invitation to present an article to the guild and say, hey, I've worked on this, to give the opportunity to have additional members talk about it. They may love your article. It may be ready to publish. That's why we might find that out after looking at it. But the idea is that we're trying to create a collaborative mechanism here. So we're asking folks to come and join a group, become part of a group that rallies around your article, in some way. So that open invitation to people that have different types of things they'd like to share with us is out there. So please let people know that that's what we're doing. We have a team that can help you get an article finished and published. We think that that's actually a really interesting thing for people to know, that we want to help make that happen. And that's what we're here for. And that's what we're including more members in, because it's fun to write together.
Not that this is not a Writers Guild meeting, but it just made me think that, Jason, maybe one thing we should think about is having 1 week having the call in the afternoon, and then 1 week in the morning maybe, and just opening up more informal sessions like this so that, people can just come and go. We should talk about
We
that.
want to encourage people to, if they have a snippet of an article, to post it in the text channel and ask, would any of the Writers Guild folks be interested in looking at this? I have some questions about my own thing, or where does this go? Just to inspire some conversation, just again, for people to share words with each other and see what's. So again, I think that could help us, because that glues together meetings at different times and different groups of people that may never conveniently be able to make a call. So that's going to be an open invitation that people will be able to see just by wandering into our text channel at some point.
Is there something else to add? I will keep on the topic of the Writers Guilds, because the next thing I added was the budget. Like, did you thought about a specific amount that you want to add to the budget for the Writers Guilds? Oh yes, I saw. I just take a look at this. I never.
Yeah, I put a amount in there, but we should just talk about that afterwards, because that was just based on a dart. I took a dart and I threw it at a figure on a wall.
So there is two things. Just as a feedback that we talked with Tam about this on our last sync. You suggest to deduct the last part of the present, like the excedent from you know what I mean. From and I disagree with that opinion. Mainly because I felt that since there will be changes on budget, there will be changes on role. It would be quite tough for some folks to just cut like because they won't transition into the same role for the next term. So it will be tough to suddenly, because it will be finished now in May, and it covers part of June, and it will be tough for us to just suddenly cut that income from with any previous notice. So I suggested to remain we will use the budget as it is until we run out of it in June, and then the next one just covers the next 3 months. Does it make sense what I just said?
Yeah, I was just suggesting that if there's any leftover at the end of this period, that it rolls into the next budget. That's all.
Correct.
But if there's no left,
yeah, but not deducted from the next one. That was I thought what Tam and I thought you were suggesting. So like if there is $3,000 excedent, we will cut that from the next budget and request less because we had 3,000 excedent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you're saying is we don't know how much is going to be left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understood.
So have you thought about the budget?
Yeah, can you share the link for that again? I don't have it up in front of me.
I will share in Communitas, so everyone, if anyone wants to take a look at it, can take a look at it. Give me a moment.
And maybe it's in there.
There you go. You have it. You have it there.
Okay. I did put a number in there. But I don't know if it's if it's the right number. Hold on, let me go look at it and see.
I mean, I feel that with this budget of 1,820, we can cover, in my mind, to like if I think roughly half of that budget, 2 articles, like each article for $100. That's more or less my mind where it goes. So we will be able to afford 2 articles per month or something along those lines. I don't know. You tell me.
So I think that $100 per article is probably light. But
400. I said 400.
What's that?
400.
Well, that I don't know. That's part of what we're gonna actually. I think part of what we want to talk about tomorrow in the Writers Guild is like, what's a reasonable amount? Like basically, there's a distinction between when somebody's writing an article for like the TEC Medium page. There's some benefit to the writer for doing that, but if they're just writing like some copy or some content for like a bot right? Their name doesn't go with it, and so like that we would want them to be paid for that kind of work. So I think the problem is we haven't quite figured out. I think actually this is more of a question for Communitas, really, which is like, what are the things that we could use in terms of writing skills right now? So the FAQ is one part of it. The bot, if there's any language that we need written for the bots, for the quizzes, and if there's any pieces that we want in Medium that are focused more on like onboarding and welcoming people and getting, people pulled into the TEC, then that's worth thinking about.
There are a few things that I think are worth taking a look at. The first one is, for example, seeing the top 10 articles in Medium and see if they need to be updated. Secondly, the website to sort of see if there's any update on the website, the writings part. Third, the Discord. Just checking all the Discord one will be a nice welcoming level job, which is basically check. I have an awful grammar on English, maybe even in Spanish. So most of the messages are sent by me, like the fixed messages all across Discord were written by me. So if someone checks that and update them, like we had two things that are outdated, for example, in pinned messages. So just go through all the channels, check all the pinned messages, make sure they are updated, make sure they are fine. And that's an entry level, like everyone can sort of check that. Or if they have questions, it's easy to learn in that way. So I would suggest those three things that are for Communitas. I feel like there's a lot of people who joins our Discord because of Medium. So there's not many sources for token economics, and a lot of people think we are still in the hatch process because they just arrived to that Medium article. So these articles needs to be updated, and probably by just picking the ones that are top view or top shared or whatever, we can sort of identify that and provide an accurate information when people read this and so on. Yeah.
So can you tell? I'm writing this down in our Writers Guild agenda for tomorrow.
Sure.
Just Jason, I'm just putting it right into the agenda. Hopefully that's okay with you. But so I have.
I take no offense.
So TEC Medium articles update. So just looking to make sure that the main articles that we have there are up to date. Discord updates, so basically like pinned messages and things like that.
Yeah.
And then you had a third one, I thought. What was the other one? Or was that it?
The website.
Writing part of the website. Yep.
Yes. Make sure that the website is updated, that it represents, like, for example, right now, if someone enters the website, it shows very metaphorical information that offers no real concrete sense of what we do here. So, I feel there is something that I would like to change in the narrative, which is make very clear what do we do here.
Yeah.
Which is something that is really tricky, and the website doesn't help on that sense. So for me, like when I explain the TEC, I just I have different definitions depending on who I talk to. But for example, the easiest one for someone stranger is like, just imagine the College of Architects or the law school, the College of I don't know how you call it in English in the US, but it's like the bar, the bar when you go in law school, the same but for talking engineering. Like the same way you have a College of Architects where you go to learn about which are the practices on the city about architecture. The same way it's the same place. You don't necessarily study there, but you can learn where to study about it. You don't necessarily they are not the ones who create the law, but they are the one who push forward new ideas for creating the law. So it's this kind of concept of the College of Architects, the architects, or the bar. And that's a definition that is easy to understand, even if you do not have technical background. But there are other definitions that are more concrete. But I feel that's something that needs to be accomplished by someone who is proficient on writing and putting ideas in a better way. And I think the website needs an overhaul on this sense.
Yeah. So I think it's a big issue because right now when you come from Twitter, first time you encounter TEC, we just funnel you right into Discord. And it's like, here's everything, right? And people, it's just so easy to get lost. And so I personally feel like at some point whether it's Twitter or wherever, we should send people to the website first to kind of get an overview, and then like help them to get into the Discord. But right now the website's not ready for that.
Yeah, because the shelling point of token engineering is like a dead spiral. Like I have to Google what a shelling point is. I don't know what token engineering is. So what, like, you're giving me two definitions of something that I do not know how or what they are, and that's not a right definition. Like if it takes me more time to define my catchphrase rather than explaining what it is, then that's a branding issue right from the start.
So what if we basically said, hey, you know what? Over the next, in this season of Communitas, we say we're going to try to like tackle 2 or 3 of these pages on the website. It's like, what is the TEC? What is token engineering? These are some of the basic questions that people have. What is TEC? What is token engineering? What is a shelling point, for crying out loud? Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, at least front page. For me, at least the front page. That has to be clear. Maybe you dive into a full mess afterwards, but you, at least on the front page, what is assumed or seen or explained about the TEC should be clear, and that's not something that is at the moment realistic. Like, it's not what's going on there.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Let's just, we could use this time to do it if you want, but like, it's just defining like what are the main things that we really want to get clear on. So you've just named some, which is like, what is the TEC? What is token engineering? What is shelling point?
It sounds to me like we're going through the mission, vision, values, and we're adding definitions to areas where it's concise then because it needs to be, but this is where we're going to fill in that blank of, well, I don't know that I really understood what that meant, and we've got to put the definition right there next to it, because otherwise people won't. They'll feel like it's out of reach because they've got to go somewhere else for it, and they don't see it in context. That seems to be one of the things that's evolving from this conversation.
You have the initial phrase is this one, like the mission. You have, like, there is this process of, and this has happened before, where we are so focused on the present that we do not update the things that we have created in the past, and this happens with the MVV. The MVV has not been updated. So, and for me, this has to happen not because it is wrong, just because the nature of evolving an organization, you are already aware of how people respond to this MVV and how it needs to be rephrased in a way that's easier understood. It's not about anything else. So, for example, the first phrase is, our goal is to become a shelling point for the token engineering community. Great. I don't know what is a shelling point. I don't know what a token engineering community is. The second one, it's way more understanding. Our economic layer will fund projects that discover, develop, and proliferate the best practices for engineering, safe token. That's a little bit more understandable, but that's not the first phrase we say. And you mentioned economic layers, so you have other layers. Which are those? Like, they immediately pop out another. Like, you are giving me a very specific point of the organization without providing me context about the rest of the organization. So, and our social layer is even more important, as it will unite the token engineering field. And it keeps saying the same thing, and I don't know what token engineering field is. And
this is a marketing rebrand. This is effectively a marketing rebrand. So marketing is an evolutionary concept in a company. You're never going to market yourself the same way. It's not just you're going to change your colors, but you're going to change your message. It should always be an evolution from a core, which I think we all agree on. So that's all we're talking about is that this message probably doesn't necessarily market the current group to the world as well as it may have in the past. So
it does. It does market the current group. It does not works for, like, people manage to understand this description, but after too long and after too many explications. So it does work for the people who know what this is. So in our little minds, our niche community, we know what this is. But on the testament of how many people I have onboarded, I will say 70% of them didn't understand this part. So it doesn't matter if it works for us if all these people who are coming in doesn't understand it. Secondly, all the effort we have to put in order to make it clear, it's too much. It doesn't compensate how pretty this is written, you know. Yes, you're 100.
Yeah, so I just have maybe a couple observations, some comments that maybe could add on to this. Yeah, just looking at the mission, I think it would be nice to maybe reward it also to make it maybe a little shorter. I think in length, having like 3 different paragraphs, in my opinion, it's a little long for people to read and to understand. And also, what I wanted to say is that there's also something called in organizational development called MTP, that it stands for Massive Transformative Purpose. And this is like a concept that is used even before getting into the MBV. It's even something simpler, shorter, broader, easier to understand for people. And it's basically the purpose, what is the purpose of the TEC? How I see it is that the mission is the what is going on here. But maybe if we try to explain to people what is the simple purpose, I don't know. I think it's a discussion to have, right? But you can have something like the purpose of the TEC is to create abundance through economic systems. I don't know, something like that. And then it's something really short and also really marketable and a good starting point before moving forward the mission, vision, and values. So I don't know. I think that could be also an option to have like a purpose. That's how I would call it.
Thank you, Bert. Yes, Gideon.
Yeah, so I think, there are a couple ways of doing this. One would be to go back into the MVV, the mission, vision, and values, and try to change that. And I don't know if this is true, but my sense is that might create some resistance in the community right now. Like, we spent a whole bunch of time trying to do that. And it's pretty good. It's just long. And maybe instead of doing that, we keep that the same, but we create a layer on top of it that's really just like a marketing layer. And actually, Barrick, I think the way you're describing that, I think is good. It's like, what you're describing is kind of the layer that maybe sits on top of that. And sometimes people call it like a tagline, like just the short sentence that says TEC is blah 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 blah. What is token engineering? It's blah 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 blah. Just very short, and then have some copy that explains this stuff in a little bit more detail, but in very simple terms. And I think that this is entirely doable. We could do that, and then just have, because here's the other thing. So in Sampo right now, one of the things that we're going to be doing over the next month and a half or 2 months is we're going to be writing up our not marketing copy, but like the way we describe the TEC, because we're going to be going out and raising more money. And so we need some very concise statements of what this is all about. So I think that these things are kind of the same project.
This is part of something that has been blocked a few times. Not blocked, but there was no effort on putting this forward, which is the idea of we need to have a narrative. There is not a narrative in the TEC. There is no cohesion in what everyone is saying differently, because everyone has a different perception of what we do here. And there is no global narrative that sort of takes the best of us and sort of project it out there. And even, for example, we talk about this, Gideon, in one of our things, which is about picking up the names for the roles in the Discord. There is no sort of brand book to me to go back and say, based on our narrative, these will be the names I will choose for the roles in Discord because they make sense related to our, or the same way we are naming our working groups. There is no cohesion. Gravity is in English, Communitas is in Greek. There's reward system is in. There's this weird kind of there's a writers guild, but there is no other guild in the TEC. So there is this kind of collective. There's this collective agreement on small groups, but there's no such thing as a community agreement on narrative, and that is not an issue now. but when you try to sell it to someone, it looks disjunctive. It looks like they are different spaces. You are telling me you have a writer guild, so you have other guilds. Oh no, you have other working groups. Oh, so then why this is called the Writers Guild? Or you have like a reward system working group that says the name what they do, but you have a gravity, which is a metaphorical name for the working group. That is a very long explanation. So is this very weird approach and lack of cohesion that a narrative should be able to bring it over? It's just the fact that no one wants to do that because it's such a monumental sort of work that needs to be done, and or not, but it needs to be some effort to put on. And I think the excuse of being able to sell the TC better to receive income is the perfect excuse to sort of, hey, this is the narrative, we can all agree on this, or we can all build on this, but this is a narrative we have to push forward because it will help us down the lane. So change your working groups names and I don't know. So yeah, back to you, Gideon.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the other things that I'm becoming a really big fan of is using this Polis tool for getting consensus in this community. And actually, I think this week I'm going to use it. What I did was I have the Sampo strategy doc, and I basically just took that document and I took all of the key ideas and I made them sentences that we can then get sentiment analysis from the community on. And I think we could do a similar thing for describing token engineering. Just basically kind of get a collective consensus on the best way to describe these things from the community, and then not have that be the way that we describe it, but have that be the information that goes to the writers, and then the writers can use that to then create good narrative. I think there's some way of doing this that could actually be very powerful, like draw on the wisdom of this community, and maybe even go beyond this community to talk to like newcomers and how they think about this stuff.
Yeah, and I think also, sorry for interrupting you, Gideon. And I also believe that in the context of a beer market and the context of all the things that happen with Luna and all situations going with the tokens and so on, it becomes more relevant the need of creating sustainable economies and ethical economies, and the way we can sort of, if we took advantage of that and sort of not because this is something not because of the context, but because that's something we are aiming to do already. So besides the beer market or not a beer market, but it's a nice timing for us to sort of frame us within the context as an option of people to find other alternative to this kind of situations that happen. So yeah, narrative for me is really important. So any support that you may need, get in, come in. We're on top of the hour, 10 minutes left. Is there something else someone wants to talk or suggest or mention? Yes, Jason.
I just wanted to make sure that we followed up on what seemed like a couple of open action items. So it sounded like Gideon and I and the Writers Guild are going to start taking a look at where on the website would we want to attack something up front and just continue to talk about it, do some collaborative exercises on it, and see where that gets us. The other piece that I'll mention is that I heard you say, Edu, that you would love for someone to take a look at all the pinned messages and all the channels and just see if those read well. I will take that on. I will give you feedback on all of those, I'd say, by this time next week. Let's just get that out of the way since we're sending everybody there. Let's make sure those messages are solid. I'll ask tons of questions. If there's other content that we decide we need, I'll even work on helping write it up once we figure that out. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose that stuff. And then otherwise, that was it for me.
I just wanted to mention that when you were sharing here the funding proposal for the working group, I think the numbers are not correct for the monthly expenses, and in consequence also like for every 3 months. I think the math needs to be checked out there.
Can you brief me where or how? Sorry, I'm very bad with numbers, so can you walk me through what your feedback is?
Yeah, so let's say for stewards, the weekly rate, it says that is 315, right?
Yes.
So just 315 times 4, it's 1260. It's just like about the multiplication, it's the same mistake for all of them. So like the weekly rate times 4, it's a different number.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like for example, for community builder, 210 times 4 should be 840. instead of 9-10.
Yeah, you are right about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gideon.
And then that's it. The same thing for the 3-month period. Then should be just times 3, right?
Right. Yes, you are right. Okay, I will do a check-in on this today.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Beer. Jason, are you on GitHub?
I probably have a login. I don't use it for any other reason, so it would be something that I'll have to find my login and get sorted out about where that leads me to. So I have not used it for anything on our projects yet, so I'm very unfamiliar at the moment.
Okay. So let me know when you find the username, so I can add you to our repo, and then I can assign this to you.
Okay. All right. We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have something else you would like to talk? At the end, we had a long meeting. Writers Guild meetings, but it was nice.
So maybe what we can do is follow up, or if we meet on Friday, Edu, then we can talk about prioritizing some of this content. And then, are you trying to get the budget done before then?
Yes, ideally it will be posted this week. I mean, there is no hurry until the stewards pass. So we need to wait for the stewards to pass. So I can still wait for the next week. But I'm hoping to submit it this even the weekend or this week.
Okay, so if you want, you can just keep a placeholder in there like what we have right now, or what I'm suggesting. Or we can, if you can wait until Friday, then we can try to make it more concrete and have like some specific, these are the specific articles that we want to have written. It's up to you.
All right, makes sense. Yeah, I will probably just need a small description for the budget to describe various guilds, like just to add it there and say like what are your objective or expectations to write about, to do about, and for what the budget will be, just as a transparency thing, nothing like too extreme to that end. Does that make sense?
How about if I just take a few minutes right after this call and put it into a note, and then you all can take a look at it and see. And then Jason, we can also validate that with some of the writers too, because my guess is that people will be very excited to write some of the stuff.
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Yeah, and I think if we're writing it together in some cases too, I think there's a lot there more than just individual contributions. We're trying to create a new process for this group, so I think there is a lot of interest that people will have in it. So I think some of these things will get done.
Yeah, I hope that too. By the way, we have 20K left on the Gnosis save. So we'll probably cover May, and we'll probably cover also June. So by the way, if you guys want to start thinking about, I don't know, we still have a week left for payments. Okay, no problem. I thought we were ending this week. We are not. All right. Something else? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. 4 times 4 minutes for the hour. So thank you so much, everyone, who joined today. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to see you next Monday. We will sing Gideon, Jason. My DMs are open, so whatever you need regarding the updates, let me know. Take care, everyone. Have a nice
Thank you.
week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
See you guys.